Hello and welcome to Studio A. We've got stories on the challenge of enforcing sexual harassment rules, problems at an off-campus housing complex, and the haunt spots of San Marcos. I'm Sage Holst. Joining me today are reporters Stephen Hepburn, Jordan Myers, Christopher Tondre, and Cody Brown. That's on Studio A coming up. We opened today with another case of flyers promoting white supremacy being discovered on campus. They were placed on the exteriors of some university buildings. University police removed the flyers immediately and are investigating right now. University President Denise Trauth called the flyers despicable and said there is no place for hate at this university. She pointed out that in other similar cases around the country, the flyers have been posted by people outside the university community. And unfortunately, that's not the only kind of discriminatory incident here on campus. Sexual harassment is another. Here at Texas State, changes are coming to the way sexual harassment complaints are enforced. Studio A's Jacob Carter looked into the effect of those changes will have on Texas State.
In a memo released last month, Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos announced that the Department of Education will be rescinding Obama-era guidelines on Title IX, the set of guidelines that defines how public colleges should respond to reports of sexual assault. The changes are aimed at preserving due process for those accused of sexual assault by raising the standard of evidence required to indict them of the charges. According to Texas State Title IX Coordinator Dr. Gilda Garcia, Texas State's current system for reporting sexual assault does its best to provide a fair process.
I can say without question, we work every day to ensure due process for everybody that's involved. And to us, that means giving people an opportunity to say their side of the story.
According to a survey conducted in 2015 by the Association of American Universities, 1 in 4 women at 27 colleges nationwide reported experiencing sexual misconduct or assault. Texas State recently launched an anonymous online reporting system for reporting Title IX violations, which Garcia said has increased the number of reports of sexual harassment her office receives. Critics of the changes say that the new guidelines will make it easier to get away with sexual assault and more difficult for victims to come forward for fear of losing their cases. But Dr. Garcia remains confident in the university's ability to handle Title IX violations.
Now, in terms of the impact overall, I have a lot of confidence and faith in the Texas State University personnel, as the president, the cabinet, the Texas State University system. They're all committed to providing a safe and supportive learning and working environment.
Many community leaders, like Melissa Rodriguez of the Hayes Caldwell Women's Center, argued that DeVos's changes may be a step backwards for victims.
Something like this is definitely a concern because it dismantles a lot of the work that we've done to move forward to create a better environment for survivors.
Despite her concerns about the new guidelines, Rodriguez said that Texas State has handled Title IX violations well in the past, and that the university works closely with the San Marcos community to prevent sexual harassment.
I mean, the relationship we have with the department, with the University Counseling Center, with UPD, I mean, one of several officers, but one specifically comes to mind, has been very active in our sexual assault task force and is a great ally to the organization and what we do, and working collaboratively together.
Since announcing the changes, DeVos has opened the new guidelines to a period of comment before taking full effect in the 2018 school year. And given the increase in high-profile sexual assault cases on campuses like Baylor, the law is likely to see more changes in the near future. For Studio A, I'm Jacob Carter.
This is really relevant to what's been happening lately with all of the sexual harassment and assault things coming out. And I think it's great that the university is helping people really come out about all these issues. One of the biggest things with everything is the #MeToo. It's given anyone, like men and women of all kinds, to come out and show their support or share their stories of all these cases, and they feel safe because of the big community.
And I think that's what's really important, just because when you're dealing with it by yourself, it's just you. But by having something in this sense, it gets the word out there. It shows that there's power in numbers and that there are more than just you yourself that is going through it. So I feel like it's very important with something like this as far as sexual harassment goes. Now, with the #MeToo, Sage, did you take part in it by chance at all?
I actually did. And what's crazy is that I hesitated at first with it, but like you said, there's power in numbers, and that's what helped me come out. It's not a trend that will disappear. It's a movement that will help others come out about all these issues and hopefully punish those that have assaulted others like this. Now, it's been tough getting around campus lately because of a lot of construction projects, but it looks like we'll soon be getting some relief. Elaine Rodriguez updates us on the big overpass on Ocarina Springs Drive.
The $20 million overpass project, started back in May of 2015, still continues today. The proposed plan is said to help the flow of traffic and to better accommodate the growing city of San Marcos. Once completed, the new addition will allow drivers to eliminate the need to stop at the railroad crossing. At its widest point, the overpass will include 8 lanes altogether, as well as a protected bike lane. Traffic has recently been reduced in anticipation for the new overpass. The lane reduction is said to last several months, leading to potential problems for local businesses.
For once, lately they actually been closing down Ocarina, down completely. So there's no way for customers to access my store. It's been affecting my business for a long time.
Some local shops have even been forced to close their doors for the time being because no one is coming in. Many drivers have begun avoiding this area altogether, leaving nearby businesses with little to no customers.
The construction has definitely made it slower, throughout the day. People trying to get here, it's very hard to get into the strip, and so people are having to park at the apartment right over there and stuff. So yeah.
The Loop 82 overpass is scheduled to be completed by late winter of 2017. For Studio A, I'm Elaine Rodriguez.
Closer to campus, students and drivers are still trying to figure out the new crosswalk installed on Sessom Drive. For some, it's very confusing and dangerous, while for others, it's a blessing in disguise. Stephen Hepburn has more on the story.
The new crosswalk at Texas State University on Sessom Drive is causing quite a stir for both motorists and pedestrians. Traffic is getting worse by the day due to motorists' inability to understand the new crosswalk lights. Many students share their opinions over the matter, both being for and against the crosswalk's implementation.
Well, as a student, I really like it. It's pretty convenient. I can just cross the street. It's a lot more convenient than going backwards, that way. But as a driver, it causes a lot of congestion on Sessom, and so as a driver, it's a little frustrating.
Although the crosswalk was set up to help students cross the road, the conditions on Sessom Drive are causing more of a problem for motorists, which endanger students who cross. Student Danielle Ortiz believes that the traffic and her safety could improve if drivers would pay more attention and if road conditions got better.
I think that it would be safer if it wasn't under construction because there's so much traffic that cars sometimes don't pay attention.
While students feel like this crosswalk is a danger, other students like Taylor Thielander feel like this crosswalk is more safe than it used to be.
No, honestly, it works pretty well. The timing's pretty great. It allows for both traffic to move through and pedestrians to cross, so I think right now it's doing a pretty good job.
For Studio A, I'm Stephen Hepburn.
This story, great story by the way. I know you got the perspective from the pedestrians that use the crosswalk daily, but how were the drivers' emotions? What were they feeling about this new crosswalk?
Well, if I had to use one word with all these people, I would say it's impatience. In general, when people are driving, there's a lot of people out there who are already impatient. And then on Sessom Drive, when you're moving it to one lane where everyone has to drive to just that one lane, there's going to be impatience.
Coming up, a series of minor crimes brings more attention to a university-run housing area, and we'll get the story of a pastime that's both exhilarating and dangerous. Those stories and more when Studio A returns.
The Bike Cave is a nonprofit organization located in room 100 of the Colorado Building on the Texas State University campus in San Marcos. The facility provides one-on-one educational instruction on bike maintenance for all levels of riders. Feel free to come in and use their large array of tools if you already have the skills. Don't have a bike but interested in riding? No problem. The Bike Cave also sells affordable used bikes and parts. So leave that car at home and ride a bike instead. And remember to please share the road.
The University Police Department sends out emergency email alerts when crimes are committed on university property. One area getting a lot of attention lately is Bobcat Village. Anna Mingoloni has more on the story.
Bobcat Village apartments are again the scene of another alleged crime. Texas State students agree that anytime they receive an emergency notification from the UPD, it is almost always at Bobcat Village. Whether it be for burglary or suspected suspicious activity, the location seems to be consistent. Many Texas State students and San Marcos residents are left wondering why here.
I think one of the reasons is probably the location. The main thoroughfare that runs through there and the side streets that run through there, it does give for opportunities.
Some say the location makes the off-campus student housing an easy target. Bobcat Village is the only apartment-style university-owned property located outside of the main campus. It sits on the corner of two busy main streets, Ocarina Drive and Mill Street, providing easy access in and out of the property for potential criminals.
It mainly has to do with access control. A lot of these people are used to living at home. A lot of them are new homeowners, are new renters. They're not used to locking their doors. They're not prepared for what can happen to them here.
Bobcat Village may seem appealing to upperclassmen because of its off-campus location, but is the reward really worth the risk? University police say they are taking necessary steps to ensure the safety of all Bobcat Village residents. Several programs have been put into place to help students avoid being targeted. UPD has even established an on-site police unit to help combat the crime and provide an additional sense of security to the Bobcat Village residents. For more information on all the safety features Texas State has to offer, please visit the University Police Department's website. For Studio A, I'm Anna Mingoloni.
You know, as they said, with all of these email updates that we receive on Bobcat Village, it's become so normal to a lot of us. Like, you get an email notification, you're like, oh, it's probably about Bobcat Village.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only university housing one that's off campus like that. And so you don't really hear about the ones, because it's not the only one that has incidences. I know I've heard of like even homicides happening at places like the Villaggio, or even incidences of home invasion over at places like Capstone. So I feel like since this is the only one that's university housing, it goes beyond it though. But I mean, I know with Bobcat Village, you're looking at on-site police presence, right? Something along those sorts?
Yeah, they mentioned that they will have permanent police presence there at Bobcat Village from now on, which I think is great that they are taking these steps. If only it didn't have to be that way, but it's good to know that they are taking such steps. And speaking of people that are always helping our community, time and time again, first responders go above and beyond the call of duty to ensure communities remain safe. Firefighters do more than just respond to simple fire. Christopher Carson gives us an in-depth look into the lives of these brave people.
Rain or shine, day or night, firefighters are on the clock 24/7 waiting for the call that dispatches them to their next emergency that can prove to be life or death for any individual. That pressure can take a serious emotional and physical toll on any first responder.
Not sleeping at nights, getting up in the middle of the night for calls, definitely takes a toll on you, physically, and then, the stress for calls and not sleeping and different type of calls can really mess with your head sometimes.
Though these firefighters are trained to handle any situation, one of the most difficult but valuable parts of their role is being there for one another and embracing their ever-growing camaraderie.
Every call is different, every CPR is different, every car accident is different, everything is different, and so we kind of get to come in and be the problem solvers. For people's worst day, it's really cool that we get to come in and kind of cool the waters a little bit, and we may not have all the answers, but we try to make it work, and that's the great thing about this teamwork is all of us bring something a little bit different to the crew.
In the event of the most recent natural disaster, Hurricane Harvey, questions were raised as to whether or not the city of San Marcos was equipped and prepared to face the flooding. Captain Garrett Jordan says that there are areas to improve.
I will say we were prepped better than we ever were, but obviously there's still room to get better. We have some high water evacuation vehicles that we've acquired. We have 2 boats, rafts, stuff like that. And I think we'd have had a better chance this time to at least get people out. You're not going to do much. The water's going to win, but as far as being able to get to people that are stranded in their house or on top of their house, you'd be better off that way.
With the recent natural disasters that have occurred, it has highlighted the importance of how much our first responders mean to our community. For Studio A, I'm Christopher Carson.
Well, see, my fraternity actually had the honor of holding a cookout, and we invited all the firefighters out, and so we got to see their trucks. They let us honk the sirens, and it was really cool being able to play football with them and just realizing that they're people just like us. They are just out here to serve the community. They're here to protect us. They're here to make our lives easier. So that was really cool to see that for them.
The Texas State Rockwall has been around for about 10 years now, but a climbing club only started this past January. They're already off to a great start. Lexi Altschul has the story.
Kyle Jackson, Texas State sophomore, is the secretary of the club, and he's been climbing for over a year. He's not afraid to be honest about his fear with climbing.
If someone approached me, and they do fairly regularly during the free weeks and all that, like when I'm trying to get them into the club, and they'll say, well, I'd love to climb, but I'm afraid of heights. My first response is always, so am I. Because it's true, I'm terrified of heights. I can't deal with them, and climbing has helped me to overcome that, not because like I just stopped being afraid of heights, like that's not how fear works, but I've come to trust myself and my climbing partner so much that the fact that I'm afraid of the height doesn't paralyze me anymore.
Texas State Climb Club has been around since January of 2017 and is an invaluable part of Kyle's life.
I started climbing for like the workout because I really hate going to the gym and lifting and all that. But I continued to climb, and it became more than a workout for me when it became my family. Like the climb club at Texas State is kind of like a family away from, the one that raised me and all that. But I mean, you can go anywhere, and like anywhere where there's climbers, and you can talk to them, you speak the same language.
The Texas State Climb Club has made a great start with close to 40 members. They're constantly planning new bouldering and sport climb trips to a lot of the Central Texas parks. They just got back from Rogers State Park, and they're planning a trip to Reimers for this next weekend. If you want to check out the club, they meet the first Tuesday of every month at 9 p.m. in the Rockwall area. It's $5 a day and $50 a semester for a pass, and it's worth every penny. Lexi Altschul, Studio A.
They mentioned fear of heights. I've never really had an issue with heights. It's more falling for me. So seeing a bunch of them without harness climbing up really high, good for them, because that's really impressive. But something more my speed, you can find it in Austin actually, where they've started this new thing for museums called Museum Day, where people are admitted free of charge. Blaine Turner visits some of those museums and brought us the story.
The crowd started gathering early at the Bob Bullock Museum. It was all in anticipation of Austin Museum Day. For the last 20 years, on one Sunday in September, museums all across Austin and as far away as Giddings and Johnson City coordinate to open their doors to the public free of charge. Angela Kennedy is the family programs manager at the Bullock Museum. She said that preparing for Museum Day takes a lot of planning.
This happens right now, and so we think about, okay, what went well today and what can we adjust for next year? And then probably about 3 months before Museum Day begins, we start to think about logistics and activities, and we plan activities in connection to our exhibits. So for example, Pong de Pokemon is our special exhibit right now, as well as American Spirits, and so we think about what activities could we plan in connection with those exhibits.
Kim Hojecki was attending Museum Day for the first time. She said that she was hoping for a learning experience.
Okay, sorry. I'm new to Austin, so I heard about it and kind of thought it'd be a good way to get to know the city and kind of learn more about the area that I moved to.
And there are several dozen different museums across Austin, some small, some large, some that you probably have never heard of before. And I think that's what's so wonderful about Austin Museum Day is you get to be exposed to some museums and places that you've never even heard of and explore them today for free.
There was also a vibrant scene over at the Blanton Museum of Art, another Museum Day participant. Carlotta Stankovic is the Director of Marketing and Communications at the Blanton. She told me that the Blanton planned Museum Day activities to correspond to its own unique exhibits.
So this year we have Epic Tales from Ancient India, paintings from the San Diego Museum of Art as one of our big temporary exhibitions. So the programming is mostly related to that. We have a traditional Indian art form called Rangoli, and we've created designs on the outside floor under our arches, and provided chalk, colored chalk for the people to color that in. We also have, as part of the exhibition, we have a UT student who is studying ethnomusicology, and she specializes in traditional Indian dance and storytelling. And she's actually performing inside in the atrium as kind of, and that's part of the ongoing program with the Epic Tales exhibition. Or whatever, but I think days like this allow people to come and just get a taste for it and see that we have different types of programming for families, and that kind of make everything accessible. And I think that's like the great thing about Museum Day in general, is that you get to see all these different types of museums and see what's in their collections and the sorts of activities that they have, and just get a sampling for it and hopefully come back.
Representatives of both museums told me that they're expecting thousands more patrons today than would come through on a normal Sunday. Of course, the hope is that by getting to explore for free, some of these people will end up making exploring Austin's museum scene into a year-round event. For Studio A, I'm Blaine Turner.
This is such an excellent idea. I myself love going to museums, and I think I've had 2 experiences where I could count more than 10 people in the same place.
Yeah, it sounds like a great opportunity to really check out some art. I know in San Antonio there's the McNay Art Museum that has free admission on Thursdays, and then even here around Texas State, where you have the art galleries in the Joan Cole Mitty building, and then even the Whitliff collection on the top floor of Alkek. So it's a great way just to kind of get more in tune with your artsy side, I feel.
Now, with Halloween approaching, people in and around San Marcos can find an abundance of spooky places. We'll take you to some when we return to Studio A.
Imagine a lusher, greener San Marcos with interconnected natural areas around town, rich with diverse flora and fauna. A place of winding paths open for pedestrians to explore the blissfulness of nature without disturbing the fragile areas or the creatures that inhabit them. The San Marcos Greenbelt Alliance shares this vision. They're a nonprofit organization working at the community and political level to preserve and better San Marcos's natural beauty. Through community education and outreach, they strive to build a passion for conservation, and their cooperation with local developers ensures that our beautiful city is progressing with nature in mind. But they can't do it alone. There are plenty of volunteer opportunities open to everyone. Visit www.smgreenbelt.org for more information on their efforts and ways to get involved.
It's that time of year again, when people start thinking about costumes and ghosts and goblins. Emily Ramsey says San Marcos has no shortage of spooky places, and she takes us on a tour.
While every town has their fair share of ghost stories, San Marcos has a unique draw for paranormal activity.
Yeah, for sure. There's the convergence of the rivers. There is the land itself is full of limestone, which is also conducive to paranormal activity. So there's a lot of draw here for the other side.
Thompson Island Bridge, the Pike House, and the theater building at Texas State University are the most notable San Marcos ghost stories.
I'm standing here on the Thompson Island Bridge waiting for James Thompson to come and greet me. It's said that during times of war, James Thompson will appear on this bridge in his full Confederate uniform with Kentucky long-neck rifle and bayonet.
W.A. Thompson and his 2 sons, William and James, migrated to San Marcos in 1850 and built their family home on what would become known as Thompson Island. At the start of the Civil War, both sons enlisted in the Confederate Army and made a promise to return home at the end of the conflict. James, however, would soon die from wounds received in battle. Legend says that he still haunts the bridge to this day, waiting to fulfill the promise he made to his brother William. Another famous ghost story for San Marcos features the Pike House. The building has a long history. It was first used as a boys' dormitory, then remodeled by the county to act as their only hospital. Without an asylum in the county, the mentally ill were also housed in this building, and their spirits are said to still haunt the grounds. Years later, the building would be abandoned and turned into a fraternity house for Pi Kappa Alpha. Legend says that several pledges died during the initiation process in a hazing ritual and haunt the area as well. In 2009, the 100-year-old house was burned down by Nicholas Ryan, who received 8 years probation for the crime. Bricks and other building materials that survived the fire were sold, and in some cases, took the spirits with them. I met with one woman whose friends bought some of the bricks.
4 or 5 months after purchasing the brick and having it on the house, they started seeing shadows within the house.
The last story surrounds the theater building at Texas State University. Ramsey Yelvington once worked as a professor and playwright in residence. 2 days after his final play opened in 1973, Ramsey fell from a platform in the theater, broke his neck, and died. His ghost is said to still haunt the green room, waiting to finish his final play. These are only 3 well-documented ghost stories in town. However, with Halloween right around the corner, you may spot some spirits of your own. For Studio A, I'm Emily Ramsey.
You know, Sage, I've been living in San Marcos for 4 years now, and I have yet to hear any of these paranormal stories. But this is really cool to really piece the history and just our town together and really kind of get some of the background information of what's going on, especially during these spooky times of the year.
I've heard of some of these places personally, but I've never been to them, so it's the time of the year to go. All right, that's all for Studio A this week. For our reporters, Stephen Hepburn, Jordan Myers, Christopher Tondre, and Cody Brown, I'm Sage Holst. We'll see you again on November 10th.